Welcome to you all this morning, whether you're here in the church or joining us online. And I see that we have Horsham Unitarians with us today. So hello to our friends in Horsham. You are welcome here just as you are, however you're feeling. And thank you for being here and for making the time on a morning when I know some people will be watching something else. So for those of you who are interested, we will be hoping to show the second half of the football after the service. But I'm afraid you have to miss the first half. This is a community in which we do our best to support each other on our spiritual journeys and through life. And this hour is, as always, a chance for us to realign ourselves with all that we hold sacred. It's an invitation to give thanks for the wonder of creation and to reconnect with the divine spirit in the company of others. And the theme of today's service is friendship. I notice that I seem to return to this theme around this time of year. And I think it's because it's in my mind because of International Friendship Day, which is always at the end of July or the beginning of August. And also because the Hindu festival of Raksha Bandhan often falls in August, and that is a festival of friendship between brothers and sisters, but more broadly as well. But also because friendships have always been the most important relationships in my life and continue to sustain me, as I know they do many of you. Friendship also feels like an important part of what we do here. And I'm sure you do in Horsham as well. It's part of building community together. It's a way of putting our spiritual beliefs into practice with people who we get to know gradually over time and we come to understand them and they us a little more as the weeks and the months and sometimes the years go by, sometimes the decades. So, as is our custom, let us begin with lighting our chalice candle, which is a symbol of our free religious faith. If in Horsham, I don't know if you're able to light your own candle, but perhaps you are. I should say that I have taken services in Horsham, although it has been a very long time since I've done that, but it's nice to know that you're here. May this flame symbolize that spark of friendship and kinship and the bonds of relationship that warm our hearts and feed our souls. May it burn brightly for each one of us. Just like to share a few words from the 12th century Jewish philosopher Maimonides, which I think Edgar actually quoted from him last week. And he said, "Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Walk beside me and be my friend." And a prayer from the Christian tradition. God of love, walk with me today. Show me the right way towards freedom and love. shine your courage and strength into me. Bless me and my family and friends, and guide me through my hardships and difficulties so I may find everlasting happiness. Amen. So from time to time here we have a sing-along, which is an opportunity to sing our favourite hymns. Recently I discovered that this hymn we're about to sing, we hadn't sung for a while. I hadn't had it made up into one of our hymn videos for some reason. Anyway, I think Kathy and Chris said they liked this hymn. So this is number 42, A Dream of Widening Love, in our green hymn books. All our hymns today are in the green hymn books. So this is number 42, A Dream of Widening Love. I mentioned the festival of Raksha Bandhan, which takes place in India, and there are several stories about how that festival began. And this one is about Krishna and Draupadi. One day, Krishna managed to cut his finger while he was handling sugarcane, which can be quite sharp. Rukmini, his queen, immediately sent her maid to get a bandage, while Krishna's other companion, Satyabhama, rushed off herself to fetch some cloth to bind the wound. But Draupadi, who was watching all of this, instead of going to find cloth from elsewhere, simply tore off a strip from the beautiful sari she was wearing and used that to bandage Krishna's finger. In return for her kindness and generosity, Krishna promised to protect Draupadi whenever she was in trouble. So a story about friendship and the different ways in which it might manifest. So by the way, I'd like to thank Rob, our friend, who is now in Scotland, who very kindly gave me 2 books on friendship, which have been very interesting, and I found them very helpful. And also to Suzanne, who has written a poem that she'd like to share with us. Yes, please. Reminding us that friends are not necessarily always human. And her poem is called Canine Friend.
Yeah, this little poem I wrote recently for this service is 6 little verses, and it's about an owner and their friend, a dog, their dog, and what they shared together and where they went. The first verse is a mountain. The second is seaside. The third is about canal. The fourth is Dartmoor. The fifth is riverside, and then there's a conclusion. So it's called Canine Friend. From the beginning, when we met, a bond began to flow. Together climbed the mountain and down the other side. Loving to run the water's edge, always side by side. Dodging fully wet to be, your eyes were full of me. Along the canal you ran ahead. The ducks, they clucked and clacked and flew away. The horse that tugged the boat along, you passed him with complete respect. The miles we covered on the moor, the ponies you ignore. The sunset shared between us, this then is forevermore. When the snow was deep by the riverside, you sat so close to me. We shared our past sad stories and closer felt the warmth inside. Now a part of me always missing. We shared both such a lot. Thank you, my 4-legged friend. You taught me how to cry again. And there's one more thing I'd like to say about friendship is, you know, we may lose, we are not changed because our friends and family have gone, you know. We are changed because we knew them.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I think many of us remember Star, Suzanne's dog, who I think was the friend of the poem. He used to come regularly. I'm going to invite you now to come into a time of reflection. And this is a period of time, just 2 or 3 minutes, just for your own thoughts, for your own prayers and meditation. There's an invitation, if you would like to use the time to reflect, perhaps on a friend who's important to you, or the meaning of friendship in your life. But as I say, this is time for you, so please use it prayerfully in a way that feels right for you at this moment. And that music, its title's French, but it means Ritual of the Mist. And it's by Nassim Jalal, who's from Syrian descent, but lives in France. In the Gospel of John, we hear this. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant doesn't know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you. This is my command: love each other. These are words spoken by Jesus to his disciples in the Gospel of John. So, again, on the subject of friendship, let's sing our second hymn, which is number 33 in the Green Hymn Books. Do you hear, O my friend, in the place where you stand? Number 33 in the Green Hymn Books. So a few weeks ago, I mentioned the importance of friends for me, and how alongside craving solitude and simplicity on my break away, I also found I needed to balance those two important things with companionship and friendship. It was, I realized, as important to spend time with friends as it was to spend time alone. I don't know where that leaves me on the introvert-extrovert scale, maybe somewhere straddling the middle ground, which is where I find myself on most things, to be perfectly honest. There was a particular moment when what it meant to have friends and also to be a friend came into quite a sharp focus. Some of you know that when I was in Orkney, I discovered I had COVID. I mean, it's a long time ago. I don't have it now, so don't worry. And I was about as far away from home as I could be at that point. And I'd never experienced before feeling a bit like, I suppose, a leper, as we would find in the Bible, or an untouchable, as we hear about in Hinduism. But when I had COVID, I felt a little bit like that. I just got the tiniest of glimpses into what it might feel like to be a pariah, And then I had to look up the word pariah because I used it and thought, what does that word actually mean and where does it come from? And it does come from the Tamil word, parayan. So quite a lot of our words in English do come from Indian sources, in fact. And apparently it literally means drummer, and that was a hereditary duty of someone in a low caste. So it came to mean someone from a low caste. So that's what I found in the dictionary anyway. And so, yeah, so now I know you can feel like a pariah when people don't want to really be near you, which is what I found was the case. I was traveling wearing a mask, of course, and I did try not to get close to people or breathe on them, which is difficult. But the friend I had been planning to go and stay with, I texted him and said, look, unfortunately I've tested positive for COVID. So, if you'd rather I didn't come, then that's fine. Thinking actually he'd be fine with it because he's quite relaxed about these things, but he wasn't. And he said, no, actually, no, it isn't really okay because my brother's quite vulnerable and I'm teaching at the moment. I'm in a school. There are various reasons, perfectly reasonable reasons why it wasn't okay for me to go. And I felt quite unreasonably shocked. This is my friend. What is going on? Although, of course, I completely did understand. And then there was another friend that I was going to meet up with in Norfolk, and I explained the situation to her, and she said, yeah, well, don't really mind for myself, but my father-in-law isn't well, and we're moving house, and it wouldn't be a great time to get COVID. So actually, it'd be better if we didn't meet. And I had that feeling of not being wanted, being friendless suddenly, even though I could see that everyone had perfectly reasonable reasons. And I don't know how you'd feel if a friend said, well, I got COVID, but can I come and stay? You might not be so keen either. Maybe I wouldn't myself. So, however, I was incredibly grateful to two friends who said, yes, of course, come and stay as long as you like, isolate with us, come and stay until you feel better. And I thought, aha, now I know who my real friends are. Which, of course, isn't fair. It isn't fair. They are good friends, but it isn't fair. And I had to ask myself, well, what's my role in these friendships? It's surely to be understanding of other people's circumstances and forgiving as well, and not sort of petty and entitled and put out. That's not really being a good friend. I mean, of course, I didn't express that to them, but I noticed that that's how I felt. And I, of course, it's very easy to feel slighted and rejected if we allow ourselves. But friendships work both ways, and in fact, they work more than both ways, don't they? They work in a complex, intertangled web, really. We have friends who have friends who have friends who have family who have friends who have family, and we are not, as we know, isolated in any way. And, sometimes we're just not the main priority. And friendships are always about give and take, aren't they? Still, though, I'm extremely grateful to those friends who said yes and gave me shelter when I needed shelter. I wondered, I don't often refer to the Bible actually, but I thought I would look and see what was said. And lots is said, but I just picked out a couple of things. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. And if you're familiar with the book of Ruth, it's all about friendship and loyalty between two women. And the story is about Naomi and her husband and their two sons who went to live in the country of Moab. And the sons married women called Ruth and Orpah. But sadly, they died. Both the sons died and the husband. So Naomi was left on her own with her two daughters-in-law. And one, Orpah, decided to go back to her own country, but Ruth decided to stay with Naomi. Instead of returning to her own home, Ruth said, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay." So those are examples of close and loyal bonds, a deep friendship, a close friendship. And maybe we have some of those friendships in our lives, but we can't have all that many of them because it isn't really practical. They take time and they take commitment. So we can't form quite such deep and loyal bonds with lots of people. But of course, we can still be friends in many ways with many people. So I was thinking about our own church community, for example. Let's all go here today. Here is a place where we may find and we may make friends. Welcome. We are brought together through a common interest, and we become closer, potentially, by going through adversity together, by sharing our lived experiences, and sharing a common sense of something spiritual, even if what we mean by that may differ. At our best, we work together and support each other and encourage each other. And in fact, that is exactly what Paul said when he was addressing, he used to write letters to the early church communities, and to Thessalonians he wrote, "Encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing," he said. So encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. And that certainly sounds like friendship. We may not be able to put our lives on the line for each other, but we certainly can encourage each other and build each other up. On the subject of friendship in church, I think many of you know we've recently, Poppy actually instigated something called Seeds of Change, where we look at things that might change and new ideas that might come up for the church. And I don't know who suggested this, but somebody mentioned the possibility of a kind of buddy scheme, like a pairing up of people so that somebody always would have somebody to talk to. And I'd just put the question out there on the tables. If any of you are hanging around afterwards and might want to give that thought some consideration, then please do. These ideas are things that we can always try out if people are willing to try them out. But obviously it would take enough people to be willing to do that. It feels to me that the wider and more generous our ability to behave as friends, to be friends, to people we know, to strangers, even to our enemies, the closer we find ourselves to the God of our understanding, who loves us and urges us to love each other, however challenging that can feel. We all need friends. Relationship is surely at the heart of what it means to be human. We have always known since the dawn of our existence that we need each other, simply to survive, but also to thrive. We find meaning and joy in the bonds we form with our fellow humans and animals. And when we live as friends to each other, surely we are living in friendship with the divine too. When we walk alongside each other, we will find that our God is walking with us as well. May it be so. Our third hymn is We Can Become. It's number 177 in our green hymn books. And it starts, community, supporting friends, hands joined in unity. Rejoice, my friend, in fellowship, in living full and free. Let's sing hymn number 177. Be seated. We are going to close a little earlier today so that we can accommodate those of you who would like to watch the second half of the football and put that up on our screen. But I'm going to share a blessing, a friendship blessing from John O'Donoghue. And for those of you joining us for the first time, there will then be a sort of little bit of music waves, and then there'll be an actual song to close with, which is You've Got a Friend in Me, which is from Toy Story. You've seen Toy Story? It's great, isn't it? I admitted to some people earlier that I went to see Barbie the weekend, and they looked a bit shocked, but I enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy You've Got a Friend in Me, sung by Randy Newman from the film Toy Story. But first, these words of friendship from John O'Donoghue. May you be blessed with good friends. May you learn to be a good friend to yourself. May you be able to journey to that place in your soul where there is great love, warmth, feeling, and forgiveness. May this change you. May it transfigure that which is negative, distant, or cold in you. May you be brought into the real passion, kinship, and affinity of belonging. May you treasure your friends. May you be good to them, and may you be there for them. May they bring you all the blessing, challenges, truth, and light that you need for your journey. May you never be isolated. May you always be in the gentle nest of belonging with your Anam Cara, which is your soul love. Blessed be.